Thank you, Tarun, for that wonderful intro. Uh, so myself, Saket. I don't know if anime is doing justice to my face or not. But today's session is, as he was mentioning, it's more about understanding the impact of social media, podcasting, how things are changing, how things are shaping up with modern tech like AI and all. So there are many business owners, entrepreneurs, design startups, design studios. I want to ask and answer me honestly. How many of you feel that you have cracked the game of social media? No, no one. Okay, so there's no surprise because social media is a tricky thing, and that's what me and Mayuresh we have been talking about, and we were discussing with Sudhir as well. So the thing what we want to cover today is how social media is becoming more and more important, not only for designers but also for brands, how they are helping brands to get more and more leads, how they are helping them to get more business, and at the same time, how it's not very difficult. And me and Mayuresh, we both have started from zero without any funding or anything like that. And we have decent following. So what we are going to share is that we are going to, at least after this conversation, I hope you will feel excited or enthused about starting a podcast and feel more confident about it. So having that thought in my mind, I want to ask Mayuresh that for everyone, tell in a very simple layman term that what is podcast and how is it different from any other sort of interviews?
Thank you, Saket. So podcast is nothing but all you need is two cameras, two mics, and a person that you can talk to, and ask him questions about the industry that he is in. So the trend has shifted now. First there were interviews, but then there was no rawness to that interviews. First podcasts were like only celebrities were there, or politicians. But at a point of time, it started to only become entertaining, and I could not relate to what they were saying. So then, that is somewhere where a podcast comes into picture, because I want to know what that person really is, how that person is managing his business, how he is conducting himself in terms of, because I'm a entrepreneur, and that is something no institute or nothing in the world can teach you how to run your business. Nobody tells you that you have to chase clients for payment. And the main thing is, I wanted to be on a podcast, but then I felt, yeah, let's do something substantial and important, so that one day I'll get invited, and I should thank Sudhir for giving this opportunity, because this is the first time that I'm sitting on the guest seat than being in the role of just asking questions, because and for that I think overall podcasting is a best platform, because why you can subtly place your business, you can talk about yourself, and you can discuss anything under the world, so that it basically inspires and motivates people. So that is one thing that I felt that that's why podcasts are working. People are watching the same thing because of the same reason. So my question to you is, why did you start the podcast? And basically your niche is design, correct?
All right. So by day job, I am a motorcycle designer working at a really big OEM, Bajaj Auto. Most of you would know that. And what I've realized that, so before this I was in Honda. So I was staying in Gurgaon, and that time I had multiple opportunities to interact with Japanese designers. I was interacting with few designers from Italy also. And what I realized after coming to Pune, joining Bajaj, that there are equally or more talented designers in Bajaj also, but I didn't know about them.
Right.
I didn't know much about them. Like there were few designers जिनका मैंने नाम भी नहीं सुना था. And it was, in a way, very frustrating for me कि ऐसा क्यों हुआ? Like why exactly people in India don't know about many designers? Like this room is filled with, established, accomplished designers. And if you go out and ask them, like how many of other people, like normal people know about them, the number is very low. So that was my very frustrating point to start with. And then I started discussing this idea with my colleagues and everyone. And then I realized another interesting thing that creatives and designers, these guys are, most of them, not everyone, but most of them are little shy or introvert in nature. it becomes like a big task for them to put themselves out on social media. They are very scared of the judgment and things like that. So I felt, why is it like that? Because when you, for example, last year I was on the selection panel for NID, transportation designers, and there I was asking these aspiring designers, who are the designers you follow, or do you know any established designers in automobile industry? And to my surprise, literally people didn't know a single name from Indian automotive design industry. Everybody was talking about Walter De Silva, everybody was talking about Chris Bangle and things like, names like that. A couple of guys mentioned Pratap Bose, but absolutely no other name. And I realized that there's serious need of promoting designers, promoting design culture in general, so that even a common person would understand. And I come from a very humble background. I come from a very small village. Like imagine a village where aaj tak ek cinema theater bhi nahi hai. So that place, when I decided to leave my engineering and go to this creative field, I literally had zero understanding about what design as a career is. Are there even jobs in that? So I struggled a lot to understand and learn about designing, going to NID, everything became like a big challenge. So I was trying to combine both these things. So I wanted to create a platform where I can bring in designers from India, I can promote them, I can understand their stories, and through them, somehow I will end up helping all these aspiring designers from rural India, or for people with not so elite and privileged backgrounds, so that they will also learn more about designing, and they can probably consider that design as a career can be a valid option. Because हम लोग उस background से आते हैं ना, जहाँ पे हर कोई सोचता है कि डॉक्टर या इंजीनियर.
So basically it's like building a community for a podcast.
I wasn't thinking a lot about community and all back then. The only frustrating point, as I earlier said, it was just promoting design and Indian designers. And with that, I started with people I knew, because obviously who will come with 0 subscribers? Now it has become little bit more easier to ask people, because I have some following and there is some credibility established. But during that time, I started with my friends and things like that, and very basic setup. So that's the intent I started with, and it is still a passion project. There's no revenue which is being generated. I'm thankful for my job, that I'm able to sustain through it. I can, because podcasting, as you know,
absolutely,
it's not self-sustaining.
It
requires a lot of money and all. So I want to ask you, like, what is the setup required for podcasting? And if someone over here wants to start a podcast, what kind of setup or what kind of things he or she would need?
So setup, see guys, what we have done just for the show, we just put this mic here. So for a podcasting setup, you just need 2 mics, 2 cameras, so 3 cameras maximum. But see, what more important is, why are you starting a podcast? What is the kind of, the platform that you want to provide people? Are you going to make it entertaining? Are you going to make it, info edutainment, bolte abhi, which is information, education and entertainment? Then it is only information and education. Because why I'm saying this is, there are a lot of podcasts that are happening. Okay, every day a new channel will come. Okay, but the thing is that what you are covering, what kind of a message that you want to pass on to people. Is it just promotion? Is it, if you are inspiring people, is it that you're educating people? That is what is more important. What has happened today is, and what I felt where I needed to start a podcast is, everybody is having a good life, having the job or they're in business and, accomplishing things. But when you come home and you see an influencer on Instagram, you open up, you feel कि यार इसकी life तो बहुत सही चल रही है यार. And then that is somewhere that shift is happening, where I am interacting with a lot of students where, they are not giving that much importance to education. They are not giving that much importance to hard work. They are not giving importance to, things that actually can build a career. And this are the things that you can do on the side. Because see, if this becomes your primary goal, then you'll have to definitely rework on your revenue model first, and then or get sponsors and things like that, because podcasting is not a sustainable thing if you don't. Because why? there are a lot of factors involved. You need an editor, you need a good social media team. Because why? Because nowadays, even if you're putting a 45 to 50-minute content, we all have diminished attention span of 3 seconds. Yeah. Even if you're like scrolling on reels and everything, agar 3 seconds mein, if I'm not getting that hook, I'm not going to watch the entire video. So imagine how difficult it is, even if you're making a 40 to 45 minutes, which is a long format. So I think these are a few points that everyone should consider. Like setups you can do. We started off with mobile cameras, and now we are renting cameras. So that all depends on the way you want to present it. Then you can do it in nice restaurants and nice backgrounds and everything that you can do. But for me, what is more important is whenever I'm calling a person, I think it's a job of a lawyer. Like for example, I need to know about him more than him. So because if you throw me a googly in my podcast, then that's a very, very embarrassing moment. So that is something that we can't do. So my question to you is, why is social media important today more than ever before?
Okay, so I think that's a very important question to address, and considering that there are so many studios and independent entrepreneurs who are in the studio, I feel social media is something which cannot be ignored. The personal brand is becoming more and more important for brands. I want to quote Austin Kleon, the famous author of books like Steal Like an Artist and all. So he says that the biggest problem for creatives is discoverability. What does he mean by that is that there are so many talented studios and designers out there, and the problem for them is discoverability. Like people don't know anything about that. So he promotes that putting content on social media and all, and I have seen this in my own journey. Before that, because there was one presentation which was going on. Nilesh, can you go back to that presentation? I just want to tell one thing, that podcasting doesn't need a fancy setup. Of course, me with non-podcasting background and things like that, I started with very basic setup of laptop, webcam, and I used to approach people on social media. And if you see, this was my podcasting setup. So back in 2021 when I started it, this was my work desk. Okay, Cintiq is looking fancy, but because I am an automobile designer, that's why it is there. But just a laptop was enough. And then I started putting some colorful lights and all that so that it can become more interesting. And this was our setup. If you can play this video. So my wife is also a fashion content creator. She's also a designer. But we have this small room. So one corner is basically dedicated to her, and one corner is basically my shooting spot. And this is where we shoot everything. Like she shoots my podcast, I shoot her content and everything like that. Obviously, this was a situation in 2021. Eventually, I got a little bit more, aesthetic about it. I started figuring out how it can be. But if you see, this table is like 10-year-old, chair is very bad, but still I was able to manage putting content out there. And initially, as you can see here, I was just video calling people using Zoom, Skype, and things like that, and interacting with some of the popular, well-known designers in automobile industry. Because naturally, I am a natural automobile designer, so naturally I had more access to them, so I started with them. Later, when I had decent following, I built enough confidence to approach some big names in the industry. Many of you would know these names like Narayan Subramaniam, who is the founder of Ultraviolet, then Pratap Bose, who is the design head for creative director for Mahindra, Dilip Chabria, our own Sudhir Sharma. So slowly I started investing into better equipments, better cameras, things like that. And today, I think we have a decent setup. And I still don't have a studio. That's where I'm probably heading. I need to have a studio where I can, bring guests and like that. But initially, when I was starting, I was asking my friends. I still ask my friends to, lend their apartments where we can.
I still ask my friends.
Yeah. So I have shot podcasts in someone's garden like this. He's Chetan Shetjale, who is from Harley Davidson. I shot podcast in someone's ranch, sitting under the shed. Whenever I had a chance to visit NID or some popular college, I used the studio as the background where, I shot podcast in front of clay models like this. And And like that, I was able to manage. And you guys are people with, substantial brands, and you have revenue model in place, you have businesses and everything. I think for you guys, it's going to be even more easier. Like today, we have whatever the setup we have. I think it won't be costing more than 2-3 lakhs. And for studios like you yourself, it will be a very minimal sort of investment. But what happens is, when you start putting content, you will realize that you will attract people who will resonate with your, personality, whatever the mission you are on. And with that, you will create a small community which is very focused. For example, my channel is completely focused on design. So I have these 23,000 subscribers. Imagine a place where 23,000 designers are together, aspiring designers, professional designers, and all that. And that would be a big asset for companies like you. So I think that's the biggest asset which you can create for you yourself. Imagine even a 5,000 people or a community of design clients where you can target or sell or pitch your business to. So the only reason why I was going through this, that if I can create this, if we can create this, everybody else here can create this kind of podcast.
And if you can't create it, no problem. You can approach us anytime. We are here with all the setups and everything. And we will be happy to host your podcast for sure. That's one thing for sure.
Yeah, that's all our time. Yeah.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah. So if we have a couple of more minutes, I wanted to ask one more thing to Mayuresh. See, I come from design background and I have a day job, and along with that, as I said, this is a passion project. So I'm putting my own money into it, but Mayuresh is doing this as a business. So I think that will be more valuable for you to understand as well. So Mayuresh, can you tell the business model of it, what is the future scope of it, and how you are planning to generate revenue out of it?
Absolutely. So see, whenever starting any business or a podcast for that matter of fact, it has to be sustainable because you're putting your own money, you have your own limited runway if you're investing initially. But before YouTube starts paying you, because we just crossed, we don't have 23,000, but we have 10,000 subscribers, and we have earned around 3,000 rupees from YouTube. So that is not going to take us a long way. But then what you have to do is, you need to market it in such a way, like using your social media, and invite guests. Absolutely, when we invite guests, you cannot charge them money because they are coming for you, right? But then, there has to be a model where, you try to bring sponsorship. You try to, collaborate with local restaurants and hotels so that, you bring in their brand placement. Because why? A lot of people start podcasts, but they can't sustain it. They can't, carry it on because you need money for everything. You need to pay a team. You need to be stronger on your social media game. Why? Because if somebody is not seeing my podcast on Instagram, and a reel for that matter of fact, he's not going to come to YouTube. You and I know how difficult the YouTube algorithms are. True. Okay, crossing 1,000 views and all initially was a big task for us. So that is where we thought कि नहीं यार इसको तो business model बनाना पड़ेगा, because I was into social media. So one good thing that happened was कि my clients came to me and they were like कि boss, TV is very costly, radio तो जाते हैं पर सुबह का slot देते हैं and nobody hears us. And then podcast like that time we had TRS and things who were charging like enormous amount, and their niche was something different. So one of my clients also told me कि यार ये वो मुझे पूछेगा कि किसी आत्मा को देखा है, भूतों को देखा है, and I was like नहीं यार, this is not a kind of questions that I want to ask my guests. So that is where we found a good business match where we were earning also from the podcast initially. We still are by getting sponsors and brands and things like that. And that is what is, important. And more than that, okay, we started with a vision that, in 1 year, I will meet, like every Saturday we will release one. But we were like, yeah, at least I'll meet a new person every week. I'll learn something from him. Yeah. I'll ask him the most difficult question that I have faced in my journey as an entrepreneur. Because I was into IT for 10 years in a job, and then I left my job and then became an entrepreneur. And then this was a pivot towards podcasting, because everybody has to be on YouTube today. Because you know those memes, na, ki my dada brought a land 20 years back. So my grandchildren should say, yeah, my dada started a YouTube channel and I'm earning from it. So anyways, but the thing was, you will network. You will network with people. You will meet amazing people.
That
And
networking is extremely important for small businesses also, because when you collaborate, it helps each other. Like I shot podcast with Sudhir, and then he came on my podcast, and then he is inviting us here. So I
Exactly.
think it's a mutual benefit kind of a thing, and I think that's all our
Sudhir,
time.
thank you. For the first time, I'm sitting in the guest seat because of you.
Yeah, thank you, Sudhir, so much.
Thank you so
This
much.
was quite
Thank
an
you,
honor.
Thank you, Design India.